Hi, everyone. Christine Blasdell coming at you again with another episode of the Micro Podcast on Podcasting. And today is all about your website and YouTube channel. And I know some of you might be saying, well, why are you talking about YouTube when we really want to know about podcasting? Well, every single client that I work with in my coaching program, I explain to them the power of having a companion YouTube channel. And that's what we're going to cover today. Now, first and foremost, your website. It's extremely important when creating a podcast that you have a companion website to that podcast. So you want to find a domain that's as close to the podcast name as possible. I have, for my show, Out of the Box with Christine, the podcast for conscious folk, I have the URL outoftheboxwithchristine.com. That's pretty easy for people to find, and that's where I post all of my past episodes, but also how you can contact me. And if somebody wants to be a guest on my show, there's a really easy way to do it. They click on a banner that says, you want to be a guest on my show? And then they can fill out a form, and I'll be notified right away. It's a great way to keep in contact with your listeners, but also for those who don't know you, they can find out more about the program. They can contact you. It's highly recommended that you create a companion website to your podcast show. Now, that said, I want to warn you, you need to do your homework. If you're going to register a domain, don't just go to anybody. Look at the reviews. I'm not going to name any names, but there are some domain hosts that are a little sketchy. So what I recommend to all of my clients, and I have nothing to do with Google, but I say go to Google Domains and register your domain there for your website. It's really important where you register your domain. And I think for Google, it's about $12 or $15 a year to register that URL. Make sure you do it and make sure you do it right. Now, once you have your domain name, another thing you want to consider is having a host for that website. There's a lot of them out there. And again, this is an area where you really need to do your homework. You don't want to find out later that there's problems with that website host. You don't want to find out that there's technical problems or they're raising their rates. You want to go with a reputable source. And what I do and what I recommend to people, and I have nothing again to do with Squarespace, but I do recommend Squarespace for creating that website and having them host it. It's an incredible service. And they also offer an e-commerce package so you can also sell your services or products on your own website. And it's a great, great source. So I use Google Domains to register all of my URLs, and I use Squarespace to host my website. Now on to the topic of YouTube. Everybody knows that YouTube is extremely popular. As a matter of fact, it's the second largest search engine in the world. It's owned by the first largest search engine in the world, which is Google. Everybody goes to YouTube in order to get education, information, motivation, inspiration, and that is where you want to have your podcast show. Now, of course, you're going to do the audio podcast version, right? And that's going to be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. All of those beautiful audio podcast platforms will be carrying your show. That's great. But where you're really going to get to those people that you need to get to, it's on YouTube. So I recommend to all of my coaching clients that if you're doing a podcast show, do it, yes, in audio, of course, but then you also want to do a video component. And you can do that easily on Zoom or Skype. But if you do a video component and you put that up on YouTube, you're going to be able to reach people that you would never be able to reach with just an audio podcast alone. To make my case, one of my very first podcast shows was called An Interview with a Master Narcissist. Now, this was in the very beginning of creating my podcast. I had horrible sound. I did not have an actual video because the guest that I was talking to did not want to be on camera. So these were just photos that I put into a video format, right? So it was the audio and photos, and that was it. It is not a video by any stretch of the imagination, but I made it into a video and posted it on YouTube. And do you know how many views I have on that show? On that show alone, I have close to 300,000 views. Now, there is no way I would be able to reach that many people if it was just an audio podcast alone. Yes, it's one of my most popular audio podcasts, but on YouTube, it blew up and it's viral. And there are so many people that are watching that interview that I had. Again, I'm not on camera. It is just slides, but that's the power of YouTube. So you want to make sure that you have a companion YouTube channel to your podcast show so that you can get out to the potential of millions and millions of people. That's the power of YouTube. So to recap, you want to have a companion website for your podcast show. Extremely important. You could put transcripts, you could put links, you can have contact information. That website needs to be as closely identified to your podcast show as possible. Also, you want to have that companion YouTube channel so that you can maximize the impact of your shows and reach way more people than you could ever imagine. And yes, that means getting over your shyness about being on camera, but the results are absolutely fantastic. And it's something that I recommend to every single one of my coaching clients. If you'd like more information, or if you'd like to contact me about being your podcast coach, all you have to do is go to ChristineBlasdale.com. That's ChristineBlasdale.com. And I want to thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Micro Podcast on Podcasting.